Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Amy.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer.
Fertility expert Dr. Amy Abazadeh.
And you have yet another success story
Just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.
Welcome to Progenesis Academy. For those who are not familiar with our webinars, you can find them all on YouTube channel, Progenesis Academy. You can also find them on our website, Progenesis Academy. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Amy, also known as the Egg Whisperer. Dr. Amy, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm pushing this out to all my followers too, so they can follow along live as well.
Awesome. I'm so super excited. I have to be honest with you. I am a very big fan of your program and your educational, webinars and those interviews that you do. It's such a great content. You don't see that very often, among the medical community. What motivates you to do those webinars?
I feel like I have a message of hope that I want everyone to hear and have, even if you're not my patient. I'm one of those people that believes in positive vibes only. I'm very positive, but at the same time, I'm very practical with my patients. And I just want people to get that no matter where they live. And so I felt like this was a perfect opportunity for me to share my message with people everywhere.
Awesome. And obviously you get patients who ask you from different countries and different continents. And how do you manage all that communication? Must be very, very challenging.
No, and I feel bad because obviously I can't answer everyone's question who reaches out to me. So I'm actually developing an app, the Egg Whisperer app. So it'll be a chatting platform for people to be able to reach out to me, and I can have all the questions in one place. Because you can imagine if I'm getting direct messages on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, it's just not possible for me to answer everybody and still be present for my practice. Because obviously my patients in my office always come first. The questions that I get online aren't going to be answered right away. And sometimes I can't answer them, obviously. But I'm hoping that with the Egg Whisperer app, I will be able to answer people within 24 hours is my goal, as they have questions about fertility.
Awesome. So let's talk about the Egg Whisperer. That's exciting, a very nice kind of branding, and nice name. How did you come up with that? And what's behind it?
Yeah, it wasn't me. So I had a very special patient who is now one of my closest friends in the entire world. She came to me ready to have a baby, and she, wasn't having the luck that we had hoped for through the IVF that she had done so far. So I told her just one more try. I said, I just feel it in my bones that it's going to work this time. And it did. And she ended up actually having twin boys. And as a gift to me, this was years ago, she just bought me eggwhisperer.com. And she's like, you're my egg whisperer. And then, as you probably know, I started something called eggfreezingparty.com. So egg freezing parties are something that I started throwing back in 2014 to educate people about egg freezing. And at my first party, she actually attended it because she was a very close friend of mine and she wanted to support me. There was a reporter there, and she whispered to the reporter and she said, that's my egg whisperer. She's an egg whisperer. And that's kind of how it all started. She lovingly, gave that website to me and called me her egg whisperer, and it just kind of stuck. And so she said, one day you're going to do something amazing with this. I don't know what it is, but this is for you. And I basically turned it into a site where people can go to get their hormone levels checked and have a discussion with me about them. Yeah. And then we talk about what their priorities are, and then I can guide them as well.
Very interesting. So the way you practice, so beside the medical aspect, just the communication channels that you have with the patients, it's not very conventional, right? So the typical physician will have webinars once in a while, and then it's just a direct-to-patient communication. But you have chosen a completely different approach, which is this brand of the Egg Whisperer. How did you make that choice to not be conventional and the way you practice also is not very conventional. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of started with medicine. You would go to the doctor's house. Like the doctor lived on your block, and if you had a problem, you'd go to the doctor's house. And doctors used to make house calls. Like we were a part of people's families and lives. And, I grew up with my grandfather being, one of the an OB GYN that delivered more babies than any other OB GYN in Iran. And then my father, the same. And so like, it's genetic. It's just part of me to not just have empathy, but to have what I call hyper empathy. It's maybe a curse, a gene defect. I don't know, but I know that I open myself up in ways that a lot of people don't, and that's okay. But that's just something I do. So for example, if I have a patient that can't do her shots, she'll come to my house and I'll do them for her. So, I mean, these are, and we have everyone in my family knows like that, someone's coming over, and actually my kids like love to participate, and it's just something special for them to see as well. And they know what mommy does. And, I wouldn't want it any other way. And I was trained by someone who actually, back when cell phones weren't actually a thing, patients would call him and he would give out his cell phone number. And so when I started my practice, that's the first thing patients got. They got my cell phone number. They knew they could text me, they can call me. And there was no question that was off limits, and emailing was never bothersome to me. A phone call, a text, it's just for me a way to make patients feel less anxiety and make them feel like they are very important to me, because they are. Every single patient in my practice is VIP, very important patient. And everyone has that status with me.
Awesome. Well, this is really, nice to hear that you make so many exceptions for patients. Patient expectation is a very difficult thing to manage, as you know. And if you look at pregnancy rates across the entire industry, so you have, 50 to 60% pregnancy rates in the first shots, right? So you have about half of the patients that don't really satisfy their need in the first shot, in the first try. How do you manage that?
I like to just say it out loud. What are we going to do if this doesn't work? Talk about those worst case scenarios up front, so that when it happens to someone, it's less overwhelming. And for them to know that there's a plan, if it doesn't work, that's really nice to know up front, because I think that when people don't have that guidance, they feel lost. They feel like no one cares about them. And unfortunately, I've seen situations where people, let's say, have a cycle that doesn't work, and there's no follow-up. There's no post-IVF consult. So I call it, you pre-plan the plan, then you do the plan, and then you pre-plan the next plan until you're finally pregnant. And I know that some, fertility journeys sometimes turn into odysseys, but I feel like when you're trying to have a baby, it's a journey that's basically about love, right? You're doing something because you want to bring this incredible love into your life and into the world. And I want people to enjoy that journey as much as possible. Of course, no one's going to enjoy like doing injections and like, having ultrasounds and all that kind of stuff. That would be weird if someone's like, oh, that's fun, I really enjoy that. But I feel like using the journey or odyssey to learn as much about yourself and be as healthy as you can possibly be, really tune into your emotions. And if you're partnered, your partner as well. I mean, it can be a really beautiful thing for two people to go through together. They become stronger, I hope. And if you're not finding that connection, you really want to question what you're doing, why you're doing it, and make sure that you maybe get a second opinion so that you have the support you need throughout the whole process.
Yeah. And in IVF, there are limitations, right? There are situations where you may have a patient with advanced maternal age or PCOS or conditions that are difficult to treat. Did you have to say no, or I can't help you to certain patients?
Well, yeah. I mean, if a woman is, let's say, a certain age and she doesn't have any eggs left, like, what can I do? You know what I mean? I'm not a magician, and I can't, regenerate eggs when they're completely gone. And that's the hardest part, obviously, because ovarian aging is one of the hardest things that we have to deal with. And everyone suffers from it 100% of the time. And when you run out of eggs, you don't run out of your desire to have a baby. That desire keeps going. So I have to tell people very honestly, like, your chances are, I never like to say zero, I say close to zero. And the likelihood of this working the way you want, it's probably not going to. So take time with it, talk to a therapist, and let's kind of just figure out like what you feel comfortable moving forward with. But for me, it's never no. It's always, what else can we do to help you reach your goals? And for some people, they have like a stop where like they're not going to do this or they're not going to do that. And then sometimes in that moment, they say they won't, but maybe 4 or 5 years later, they're like, you know what, I'm ready now. So I know that not everyone is ready to do everything that's an option for them in the very beginning, but sometimes you learn along the way that you might need to be more open to other things.
Awesome. In the last 2 years since COVID hit the country, did you have to change the way you practice medicine?
Well, I'm really from the very beginning, I've always been doing video calls. I've always been talking to people on the phone. So for me, the hardest part is, as you can tell, I like to talk. I like to engage with people. I like to teach them about their bodies. I have all sorts of stuffed animals back here. I like to show them things. And then all of a sudden I had to put a mask on my face and then like try and talk to people. And that's really, really hard. Yeah. So for me, that's how I change things. I don't do any consults with people in the office with a mask on. I just can't. I can't have meaningful conversations. So I do all my follow-up calls, all of my follow-ups over calls or video. And people are like, well, I want to come in and talk to you. I'm like, trust me. Like I'm working like 12 hours a day with a mask on. It's really, you're going to have a better conversation if I'm able to see you or talk to you without being masked. At least that's how it is here in the Bay Area. So I see a lot of patients in the office, but they're all in treatment, doing their follicle checks or doing a procedure. But that's really how I've changed things. So I don't do any in-person consults at all. That includes new patients and phone follow-up, and obviously phone follow-up is the phone. But I think a lot of doctors are doing that as well. Yeah. So I'm not the only one. But I know some people are bringing patients in for their new patient visits, but it's just not something that I can do because I just get tired wearing a mask all day.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And among other things that have changed in the last 2 years is we've seen a lot of consolidations in IVF. Yeah, a lot of network have started, and then the solo physicians started to kind of disappear somehow. Like right now, there are lots of what do you see this trend of conglomerations of IVF and versus solo IVF practitioner? What the future look like to you?
I think the future looks like more OB GYNs practicing fertility medicine. That has to happen. There are not enough fertility doctors out there. If an OB/GYN knows how to deliver a baby or do a hysterectomy or do a C-section, they can be taught how to do an egg retrieval and an embryo transfer. So we have this huge amount of patients in this country right now, a small number of physicians that can serve that need. So what's happening is patients are being put on wait lists for months and months, like 3 months to get in, and then 3 months to do an IVF cycle. Your IVF cycle doesn't work, another 3 months to get in again. And it's like, what are we doing to people? We can't do that. So we have to train more people to do what we do. I know it's not a popular opinion because, fertility doctors, we went through school a long time to figure out an egg and sperm makes a baby. But the reality is that I think that someone who is a skilled surgeon can definitely do the procedures that we do. So that's what I think the future will hold. I think more non-IVF trained doctors, like from the beginning, will be trained by doctors like me and other IVF doctors to do the procedures that we need so that we can serve the need in this country.
And quite frankly, we have already started to see that trend in a different way, where there is a combination of OBGYN and a fertility specialist in the same organization, and we've seen it in few places. So this could also be another configuration where there is a mix of both, right?
Right.
Very good. So let's talk a little bit about the medical, and I'm going to kind of go a little bit more technical now. The future of technology in practicing medicine. There are a lot of talks that kind of talk about the future of the IVF lab and how automation is going to take place, and the ICSI and all that biopsy will be automated, and the use of AI in the space. Does technology have more space in the way physicians practice fertility treatment?
Absolutely, and it has to. And the reason is staffing. I mean, we don't have enough humans to staff the cases that we have in the IVF lab. Even medical assistants in the office, we don't have. So the more we can use technology to serve the needs of the patients who need us, the better, I think. But at the end of the day, we can't replace the human touch. We can't replace talking and communicating to patients. Patients still want to talk to a human about their results. They do. They want to feel like someone cares about them and they feel connected to them. And so what I'm hoping is that we don't use technology as an excuse not to interact with people, because people still need people.
Exactly. So let's take embryo transfer as an example, or maybe the way you decide what simulation protocol to use and how you adjust this over time. Would technology play a role there, you think?
I mean, as far as embryo transfer and the actual procedure, maybe. I mean, maybe I don't necessarily need an ultrasonographer holding a probe. I mean, I used to do the probe, have the patient hold it, and I would do the transfer. This was a long time ago. Yeah. I mean, so there might be a way technology can help us with, simple solutions like that. As far as, what was your other question?
How you decide.
I mean, I think there's an art to that, and I get really strong I know it sounds cheesy, but I get like, maybe I can automate those feelings that I have about like the patient's body size, her age, her previous experience, and all the different things that are going on. Does she have PCOS? Is there endometriosis? And then I come up with a protocol for her. I don't think AI can do that.
Okay, I have had a chance to ask another physician about this a while ago, and she said that humans are super powerful computers, AI computers, because they have seen so many cases over time, and they have that judgments that maybe an algorithm cannot have. But I also see an opportunity where an algorithm can look at thousands and thousands of patients, different situation, different age group, and different history of fertility and AMH and all that measurements, and can predict somehow what the patient would respond based on all these elements. Sometimes, humans are good at making some judgments, but also sometimes picking up patterns. The computer does beat the human in some occasions.
Nabil, I don't know if you know, my first name is Amy, and the first two letters are AI.
Yes. Awesome. Very good. So we are close to wrapping up this interesting interview with you, and I appreciate that.
Really? I was having so much fun.
Well, I really enjoyed let me say first, thank you so much for taking the time to go. You literally just had a procedure, and you were kind of trying to make this interview happen, and I really kind of appreciate that. But I wanted to talk to you about how do you practice medicine, and for patients who wanted to seek your advice or your treatment, how they can find you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm easy to find. My website is draimee.org, and you don't necessarily have to be my patient to see me as a patient. What I mean by that is I have a class on Teachable. It's eggwhisperschool.com. So I run IVF classes, Tushy method classes, which are classes to teach you about your fertility. And then I obviously see patients as well, but I can provide guidance, and you can take what I share with you and apply it to what you're doing, no matter where you live. So I hope anyone who is watching this just feels like they can reach out anytime and take advantage of some of the opportunities that you have if you want to hear from me about your case.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Amy, I really appreciate your time. I wish we could have another opportunity to talk about other topics in the future.
Anytime. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and have a great, great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.